Figure 7.3, initializing an array's elements to zeros and printing the array. In this example, we introduced the syntax for declaring an array in C++ and also for working with an array in C++. So basically, if we go ahead and run this example, you'll see that all we're going to do is to display two columns of output, one listing the index numbers of the array elements and one listing the values. Now, like other variables in C++, array elements are not initialized for you by default. So when we created this 10-element array, we also had to go ahead and specify the initial values for each of the elements, and we'll show you how we did that in just a moment. Now, just in case you're coming from a language that doesn't use zero-based indexing, the first element of an array in C++ is element number 0. And if you have a 10-element array, as we do in this case, the index numbers go from 0 through 9 for the 10 elements of the array. And all indices start at 0 in C++. Let me just reattach my window here. Actually, there we go. All right, so now in the main function of this program, at line 12 is where we declare our array of integers. And just to show you, by the way, if I go ahead and run this program in the debugger, once I go down to my for loop here, the array n has been created, and in the IDE, in the autos window, we can see the values of all the elements in the array, and you can clearly see that they all have these large negative values. They are not initialized to 0. They are not specifically being initialized to -8, 5, 8, blah, blah, blah. What's happening here is they're getting whatever value happens to be in memory at each of those array element locations. So what we're doing in this program is explicitly using a loop to set all of the values in the array to 0. Now, at line 12, we specified that the type of elements in the array is int, the name of the array is n, and the square brackets indicate that this array has one dimension. For multi-dimensional arrays, you'll see that we'll have multiple sets of square brackets, which we'll do later in this lesson. And inside the square brackets, you specify the number of elements, 10 in this case. Now, at line 15, I have a little for loop that starts counting from 0, which is the first index in the array, as long as that index number is less than 10, which is the number of elements in the array. Notice we're using less than, not less than or equal to here, and we'll keep incrementing one at a time. And for each of the array elements, the way we access a given element is by specifying its name, a left square bracket, its index number, and a right square bracket. And that can be used as an L value, a left-hand side of an assignment, so that you can place a value into the array element. It can also be used as an R value to get the value out of a particular location in the array. And all we're going to do now is just print out a couple of column heads and display the values of both the index number and the value of n at that index location. And as you saw in the output window, when we produced the final output, we got the numbers from 0 through 9 in the left column, and in the right column we saw that all of the elements of this particular array were set to 0.